There are a lot of great video game franchises out there, but very few series started out that way. Plenty of hopeful properties stumble out the door on their first outing and are merely good enough. Hell, some of them are straight up bad. But redemption is a simple sequel away. I'm Josh the Top Hat Gamer, and these are my top 5 most improved sequels. Number 5. Grand Theft Auto III. The GTA series started its life as an overhead action game where you steal cars, work for gangs, and commit crimes like a champ. And while it was always fairly well liked, it was the game's jump to a full 3D open world that would boost the franchise into the stratosphere. Given free reign over a surprisingly large city filled with unsuspecting civilians to wipe out and vehicles to take, and delivering an adventure that the previous games could never hope to achieve, was enough to make Grand Theft Auto III the classic it is today. Sure, the series has improved since its first awkward steps into the world of 3D graphics, but never as noticeably as the leap between 2 and 3. Number 4. Titanfall II. Titanfall was probably the best multiplayer experience in the early days of this latest console generation, and pretty much nailed its mobility-focused pilot gameplay and powerful Titan mechanics. Unfortunately, there was no single-player content to be found at all, and while the multiplayer was fun, it just didn't offer much to keep players from leaving. Along comes Titanfall 2 to solve the series' problems. It added a fairly lengthy and engaging campaign that paired you with an endearing Titan buddy, and a number of multiplayer tweaks, unlocks, and free additional content to keep its player base enticed. The sequel may be paying for the shortcomings of the original with its underwhelming sales, but for what it's worth, the game is a genuine improvement on all fronts. Number 3. Mortal Kombat 9. The mid to late 2000s wasn't a great time for fighting games. Sure, you'd eventually get awesome games like Tekken 6 and Super Smash Bros. Brawl, but you also had to put up with trash like Mortal Kombat Deception and Armageddon. Games that added little in terms of refined mechanics, and compensated by drowning the series in a horde of forgettable characters and libraries worth of convoluted lore. Mortal Kombat 9 would perform an in-universe reboot of the series, a narrative move I don't think I've ever seen in any other story, period. Culling the bloated cast and paring back the various mechanics until you had a solid, fun fighter that wasn't bogged down by its own bullcrap. What's more, the series would hit a new gory high that's yet to be topped, and really, isn't that why Mortal Kombat exists anyway? Number 2. Assassin's Creed II. I enjoyed the initial steps into the Assassin's Creed franchise, bland though they may have been. Mechanically, the game was fine and the plot was certainly unique, but there was just so little to keep players invested. Altair was emotionless and boring, and there wasn't a great deal of motivation to keep us moving forward. Assassin's Creed II, on the other hand, gave us a charismatic protagonist and a revenge story that, while fairly typical, gave us a reason to want to get to the end. Plus, the game added a number of minor tweaks and brand new mechanics that gave the gameplay that little edge that it needed to become something special. Like many other franchises, the series has improved quite a bit since, but it's yet to top this particular jump in quality. Number 1. Borderlands II. I just flat out didn't like the first entry in the Borderlands franchise. I appreciated its occasional attempts at humor, and its opening song was radical, but for the most part, the loot-driven FPS gameplay just bored the hell out of me. The lack of any compelling story or really interesting characters didn't help. Luckily, with Borderlands 2, the series was injected with just a little more personality. Its landscape was varied and colourful, the characters were more interesting to play as and interact with, and there was a story worth giving a damn about, if only due to the game's brilliant antagonist, Handsome Jack, constantly provoking you onwards. The difference between Borderlands 1 and 2 is, in my books at least, the difference between a 2 and a 5-star game. So there you have it, my top 5 most improved sequels in gaming. There are plenty of sequels that I didn't mention today, and these are just my opinion, so let me know what you would have added in the comments below, and game on.